me give a quick overview of the first tip on my secret to instant attention cheat sheet, of course, which is capture their interest. So I'll read it right off here off my cheat sheet. Remember, so specifically this cheat sheet is about the 5 insider tips to make your headlines draw in more customers. So number 1 is all about capturing their interest. Remember, the headline is the first thing your audience sees. Don't bury the lead, which means make sure you don't hide the juiciest part of your message down in the content somewhere. Bring it up right front and center. So that's the first tip on my cheat sheet. Now, what does this mean in practicality? So when you're sharing things with people, everything is a headline, like I say. If you're sharing an event, maybe it's a book you're writing. When you're talking to people and sharing to people, watch for that moment where their eyes light up and they say, wow, and now I see the value of that. Or maybe it's the piece of your content that they ask the most questions about. They say, oh, tell me more about that piece specifically. That's the one that gets their interest. So take all that stuff, take all that data that you're collecting, and whatever it is that people are the most excited about or the most interested in, bring it right up front and center. Work it into that headline or title as best you can, because then you'll be that much closer to capturing more instant attention. Tip number 2 on my secret to instant attention cheat sheet, which is strike a balance. Let me read this one for you. You want to make sure you don't give too much away, but you also don't want to make it so vague that your audience has no idea what you're talking about. It's all about finding that delicate balance. So I specifically wrote this about headlines, how to draw that instant attention, but this applies to so many areas of business and in life. You want to strike that balance between, in this case, it's giving too much away, having it be too complete almost in the headline, as opposed to the other end of that spectrum, which is having it so vague that when you say your headline or when you post it somewhere, you don't have people saying, wait, what? What is this about? That's all too common that I see nowadays. Something I teach about more in my Secret to Instant Attention course, which expands upon this cheat sheet, is the purpose of a headline. In my definition, in my world and in the marketing world, the entire purpose of a headline is to get the reader to read the first sentence or whatever the next sentence is, to read the subheadline or whatever it is. That is the entire point. So when people give everything away in the headline and there's no reason to read on, it's not doing its job. Or if it's so vague that people are too confused to want to read on, it also fails its job. That's why it's important to strike that balance. Another tip from my Secret to Instant Attention cheat sheet. We're on number 3 today, one of my favorites. Don't get cute. What do I mean by that? Let me read it for you. The whole point of your headline is to get the reader curious, but not to confuse them. You want them to read the rest of your content, not sit here confused about what your headline even means. So that's number 3, don't get cute. I touched a little bit on this during the strike a balance piece, where the point of the headline is to get the reader to read the very next thing, the very next sentence, the subheadline, whatever it is. So I see people trying to get clever or trying to think of these funny word plays that they could put into their headlines, right? Because that's what we're talking about, attracting attention to everything as a headline. That first piece of the message, basically. So people try to get clever, they try to get cutesy, and it misses the mark a lot of times, where by trying so hard to get cute, they end up sacrificing a lot of what the message really means. They try to be too creative, and when there is a creative element to doing this, but it's not essential, I would say. The creative piece is how can you say it so succinctly and so tightly that it brings your message across. And I'll end with this on this tip from a quote from the famous advertising French advertiser in the 70s, David Ogilvy. This is one of his books on advertising. His definition, so he says, if it's not creative, oh wait, no, what is it? If it doesn't sell, it isn't creative. Another tip from my Secret to Instant Attention cheat sheet. We are on tip number 4 today. Be careful with tools. So let me read you that one here. Don't get me wrong, headline analysis tools are great, but they're limited. So take the results with a grain of salt, because these tools have no idea who your target customer is or what you're promoting. So again, we're talking about headlines here, how to grab that instant attention. This was an interesting one that I came about in my networking, because I found out that so many people use these headline analysis tools, they're called. But basically what they are, if you haven't used them or if you haven't seen them, it's like a Google search bar, at the top, and you put in your headline. And when you do, you hit enter, it'll spit out a numerical grade. So it'll say this headline is 60% effective, for example, or 20%, whatever it is. And so I say in the cheat sheet, take them with a grain of salt. But what I notice people doing is some people live by this. It's the end-all be-all for them. They say, oh, if my score isn't at least 70%, I'm going to scrap the whole thing and keep dialing it in. And I'd caution people against that, because, like I said, these tools have no idea who your target market is, what your branding is, what your industry is like, things like that. So they're pretty limited. Take them as a point of data, but not as the final say, is my suggestion. And in my instant attention crash course, I dive into the tools that I specifically suggest to maybe avoid, and give some tools that are helpful and that might be useful for you. So make your headlines, maybe use the tools if they call out to you, but in my suggestion is trust your gut. And if it feels right, it's the right headline. We are on the 5th and final tip of my secret to instant attention, the 5 insider tips to make your headlines draw in more customers. Number 5 here, is test it out. Let's see what it has. The best marketer in the world is the actual marketplace. So put your title out there and see what the reaction is. You can always adapt it later, and you should. So, number 5, test it out. So what does that mean? It means a lot of folks that I see, they're always working on the headline, and when you do that, when it's on the drawing board, so to speak, you're in your own head about it. You're tweaking and changing it. But once you put it out to the world, to your followers, to your tribe, that's when you'll really see the results and see if it's effective, right? There's no better marketer in the world than the actual marketplace, like I say. It's worth repeating, because yes, you could study all the different marketing tactics, which I do, or hire someone like me to assist you in that. But at the end of the day, you'll never know until you test it out. In my instant attention crash course, I go into detail on how to test, different ways you can do it, different tools you can use, different strategies to make it more methodical and really get some hard numbers. But for this tip, I'm just going to leave it at that. Put it out there. It's as simple as that. Ask some colleagues. There's really simple tests that you can do. So if you'd like a copy of this cheat sheet right here, go to the link in the comments below. I'd love to give you a copy.